A four-winged seed of a ditrocarp tree falls to the floor of the jungle, and the process of natural forest regeneration begins deep in the forests of Sabah, the Malaysian state at the north of Borneo Island. From sandy beaches to the heights of Mount Kinabalu, Sabah's natural forests have adapted to their widely varying circumstances. Evergreen tropical rainforests cover over 50% of the state. This is why Sabah has one of the richest and most biologically diverse forest ecosystems in the world. There are over 12,000 species of seed plants, including the famous Rafflesia and pitcher plants. And these forests are home to a panoply of animals and birds, including many rare and endemic species: the orangutan, hornbills, the proboscis monkey, the pygmy elephant, and so many more. The mixed ditrocarp forests are also the main source of commercial timber in Sabah. Royalty payments for timber-based products are important public revenue, so the proper management of these forests is crucial to the financial health of the state government. The forests not only produce valuable timber products, but are also a vital source of clean water, an ecotourism and recreation asset, a place for education, and a storehouse for biodiversity. Besides these diverse needs to preserve the flora and fauna, people are constantly looking for space in forest areas for settlement and plantation activities. There are many different pressures on the forests. So, prudent forest management is crucial in achieving the right balance between these competing needs. Sabah's timber trade started by chance when an Australian exported timber cut from his sugarcane plantation in the Sandakan district in 1895, during the time of the British Chartered Company. With the realization that timber produced good returns, forest exploitation increased, and Hong Kong, Japan, and China became ready markets. After the Second World War, timber exports became the mainstay of the economy of North Borneo, as Sabah was then known under British colonial rule. This reliance on timber continued until after independence, when Sabah joined Malaysia in 1963. It was only natural that throughout these years, forest management was for timber production, with little regard for the longer-term opportunities that the forests offered. The Sabah Forestry Department is the principal agency of the government responsible for the administration and management of forests in Sabah. But to manage them really effectively requires more from the people involved than just the call of duty. It requires a heart and a vision for the long-term future and a determination to see it through. The department has adopted for its management strategy the guidelines provided by the International Tropical Timber Organization, otherwise known as the ITTO. These guidelines set out 24 principles to be observed by timber-producing countries, known as the ITTO Year 2000 Objective. More than 3.5 million hectares of Sabah's forests have been gazetted as forest reserves, accounting for 49% of Sabah's total land mass. Of the total area designated as forest reserves, about 70%, or 2.6 million hectares, are designated for timber production. State parks and wildlife sanctuaries take up areas totaling another 275,000 hectares. Prior to 1997, most logging licenses issued in Sabah were for 5 years or less. Unfortunately, these short-term licenses offered little incentive to loggers to safeguard the forest environment for the long term on a sustainable basis. And for this reason, much of Sabah's forest resources are in a poor condition today. The urgent need to improve forest management was clearly evident, and so the Forestry Department, with the support and assistance of the German Agency for Technical Cooperation, began a project to develop and refine a management system that would ensure the permanent sustainability of Sabah's forest resources. This endeavour began in 1989 with the creation of a Forest Management Unit, now generally referred to as an FMU, and the development and implementation of a model forest management plan for it. The area chosen for this pioneering project was the Daramakot Forest Reserve, comprising just over 55,000 hectares of lowland forests. After 5 years of planning and field trials, a management plan for Daramakot Forest Reserve was completed in 1995. 2 years later, in 1997, this project was certified by the Forest Stewardship Council as having met the international standard required for a well-managed forest. This was the first tropical rainforest in the world to be given such certification. With the proven success of the Daramakot experience, the goal of the Forestry Department has been to see this model management plan being used for the management of other FMUs established in other forest reserves in the state. With this objective in mind, the Sabah government took a bold step towards achieving sustainable forest management on the 10th of September 1997. Turning away from the past practice of granting short-term logging licenses, the Sabah state government, through the Forestry Department, entered into agreements with 10 private companies. Each of these companies was allocated a large forest concession comprising one or more FMUs for the purpose of timber production, but with the conservation of biodiversity through sustainable forest management. These agreements give each company the right to manage its forest concession for a period of 100 years in accordance with a forest management plan that has to be approved by the Forestry Department. These forest management plans must comply with set guidelines and standards for sustainable management. They must clearly set out the goals and strategies for managing each FMU, including specific targets and their associated activities. These private sector partners are required to use eco-friendly harvesting methods such as reduced impact logging and to undertake the improvement of timber stands. The first of the 24 principles under the ITTO 2000 objective states that a strong and continued political commitment at the highest level is indispensable for sustainable forest management to succeed. The FMU system clearly demonstrates that the required political commitment is in place in Sabah, as well as in Malaysia as a whole.
The Malaysian government continues to be fully committed towards ensuring the sustainability of our forests. Through the practice of sustainable forest management, we hope to ensure the protection of our forests.
Since the launching of this initiative in 1997, about 2 million hectares, or 55% of Sabah's production forests, have had forest management plans approved by the Forestry Department. To date, FMU concessionaires and other landowners have planted or enriched a total of 282,000 hectares of forest. One of the forest concessionaires that has taken this collaborative action seriously and has performed well is located at the Ulu Tunggud Forest Reserve, covering an area of 123,000 hectares. According to the management plan approved for Ulu Tunggud, 30% of the FMU is set aside for protection or conservation, while the remaining 70% is allocated for timber production. These long-term concessions are enabling the Sabah government to gradually phase out the short-term extraction licenses that have been found to be frustrating rather than enabling sustainability. Improper harvesting practices of the past have caused a lot of destruction to the forest environment in Sabah. It takes a long time for the forest to recover from serious damage caused by logging, and this undermines the long-term sustainability of the forest for timber production. Destructive logging practices persisted in the past due to the lack of specific guidelines and objective methods of controlling and evaluating harvesting operations.
As the custodians of this God-given natural resource, the Forestry Department cannot possibly allow mob rule to dictate public policy. As Principle 9 of Islam Hadari states clearly, we must safeguard and protect. It is not only a matter of responsibility, it is not only a matter of duty, but it is a matter of honor, marwah.
They say that actions speak louder than words, and since 1997 the Forestry Department has introduced a number of measures to limit damage to the forest environment. One such measure has been reduced impact logging. The key feature of reduced impact logging is the comprehensive harvesting plan that must be prepared and approved before the commencement of logging operations. This plan includes the location of all harvestable trees and a predetermined layout of feeder roads and skid trails to facilitate the systematic and orderly extraction of logs, thus significantly reducing soil damage. Under the long-term license agreements in place in Sabah today, all harvesting operations in forest reserves have to comply with reduced impact logging guidelines. To date, the Forestry Department has provided training in reduced impact logging for more than 1,000 individuals. The implementation of sustainable management and improved harvesting practices unfortunately does not change the fact that much of Sabah's mixed ditricarp forests has been degraded by both poor logging practices and by forest fires. The most serious drought-induced fires in recent times occurred in 1983 and 1998, causing severe damage. Whether the forest is to be enhanced for timber production or for wildlife, the restoration of these degraded forests is top on the current agenda of the Forestry Department. Over the last 10 years, more than 86,000 hectares of forests in Sabah have been treated and restored. But a lot more remains to be done. Action on this front is ongoing. Forestry activities such as planting also create job opportunities and a livelihood for many rural communities living near the fringes of the forest. With the right policies in place and given sufficient time and effort, the forests will gradually recover. As timber production from natural forests declines, produce from tree plantations of fast-growing species is becoming an increasingly important source of raw material for wood-based industries. About 600,000 hectares have been designated for commercial tree plantations. By 2006, the total area of tree plantations, including those on private lands, was about 250,000 hectares. Although much of Sabah's planted forests comprise of introduced species, the Forestry Department is encouraging the planting of suitable indigenous trees. Certain native trees, like laran and binuang, can reach harvestable size in 10 to 12 years. The success of any large-scale tree planting program depends on a reliable source of planting material, both in terms of quantity and quality. In order to provide a long-term solution, the department has initiated the establishment of seed orchards of various tree species located in different parts of the state. The conservation of Sabah's forests is of great importance to the Forestry Department. In March 2006, the Sabah government made a declaration that the Ulu Sagama and Malua forest reserves, covering an area of over 200,000 hectares near the east coast town of Lahadatu, will be kept under natural forest cover and managed strictly as such. This decision was motivated by findings of a high concentration of orangutans in the area. This decision is testimony of the Sabah government's commitment to sustainable forest management, especially in the conservation of forests for the survival of wildlife that is indigenous to Borneo. Today, about 30% of all forest reserves in Sabah are designated strictly for conservation. The famous areas of Danam Valley, the Maliau Basin and the Tabin Wildlife Reserve feature amongst these. Among these supporting such conservation programs is the Oscar award-winning actor and director Mr. Mel Gibson. He has been happy to give support to the Petra Foundation for research and conservation work at the Danam Valley Field Centre in Sabah. He says that this is a good cause, not only in promoting rainforest protection, but also in the preservation of endangered species discovered in the rainforests in this part of Borneo. The Malaysian government has also taken the initiative to work closely with neighbouring territories in its conservation efforts. The three Bornean governments of Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia and Malaysia made a historic declaration in Bali, Indonesia in February 2007, agreeing to conserve and manage on a sustainable basis approximately 220,000 square kilometres of rainforests, almost 1/3 of the island of Borneo. This gigantic forest conservation project is rightly referred to as the heart of Borneo, because the interlinked forest reserves across the three territories are located along the central region of the island. Within the boundaries of this zone is found one of the most important centres of biological diversity in the world. Amongst those full of praise for this joint action is Sir David Attenborough, one of the world's best-known naturalists, a respected face and voice of BBC television on natural history programmes for more than 50 years. The increase of population in coastal areas results in a higher demand for land. This causes large mangrove areas to be cleared or degraded, and so the Forestry Department has also had to attend to the conservation and sustainable use of mangroves in Sabah. Another positive and firm action for the protection of rainforest taken by the state government of Sabah has been a tenfold increase in fines for those in possession of illicit timber. This legislative move was made in September 2007 to discourage illegal logging activities. In all forest management plans, the interests of communities living within or near forest reserves are carefully considered. Dialogue with local communities is regularly held to ensure that their needs in forest use are taken into account. In the Supu Forest Reserve, for example, the Forestry Department has allowed a cooperative of the local community based at Kampung Batu Putih to occupy reserve land for tourism purposes. This ensures that the locals enjoy direct benefits from the tourism industry. In the Mangkuwagu Forest Reserve, where local communities occupy a large portion of the area, the Forest Department is working jointly with NGOs, such as the Partners of Community Organizations, known locally as PACOS, and the World Wild Fund for Nature, or WWF Malaysia, to design a management plan that ensures that these local communities benefit from forestry-related activities. Research plays an important role in supporting and improving sustainable forestry. Through its research centre in Sandakan, the Forestry Department provides support services to FMU concessionaires. For example, the centre experiments with various tree species to identify those that are suitable for commercial cultivation, as well as exploring the potential use of many other species. The research activities of the department cover a wide field, including collaboration with local and foreign universities and research institutions, such as the University of Zurich, Aberdeen University, the Japan International Research Centre for Agricultural Services, and the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew in Britain. The department particularly collaborates with University of Malaysia, Sabah. The Forestry Department also runs an active education program aimed at creating better public awareness of the importance of forest conservation and good forest management. This is a new dimension to its traditional role in forest management, and much effort has been made with this program since its inception by way of the Environment Education Program in 1997. In August 2007, Datuk Sri Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, opened the Rainforest Discovery Centre in Sandakan. This educational facility serves as a platform to foster forest conservation and sustainable forestry practices. Strong political support is very important in instilling good forestry practices in Sabah. Sabah's Forestry Department is thankfully not alone in rising to the challenge to protect its forests for future generations. There is hope and optimism as help comes from Sabah's immediate neighbours and from around the world.
Given the increasing complexities in demands and sustainable forest management, the involvement of key stakeholders, particularly the NGOs and the community-based organizations, CBOs, are crucial to ensure balanced and sustainable development. I would also like to thank WWF, the Hutan, the Sabah Society, Alexander Abraham Foundation, and PACOS, among others, for their contribution to our endeavor.
Financial contributions from the federal government and organizations like the HSBC Bank, the ITTO, and the Alexander Abraham Foundation have all made a meaningful difference. Efforts made by the Malaysian government in Sabah in sustainable forest management have been applauded by the international community. Sabah also has a long involvement with several international organizations in projects to promote the planting of forests in order to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. One such project is with the Forests Absorbing Carbon Dioxide Emissions Foundation of the Netherlands, or FACE, an organization set up by the Dutch Electricity Generating Board.
We engage with the world to learn new things, make friends, and we have collaborative programs with like-minded people who are here to sincerely assist us.
This carbon offset project, committed for a period of 99 years, was undertaken jointly with Enterprise Corporation Sdn Bhd, the investment arm of the Sabah Foundation, with the objective of rehabilitating about 25,000 hectares of degraded mixed ditricarp forests with native trees that will absorb atmospheric carbon. By the year 2007, about 11,000 hectares of degraded forests had been either planted or treated under this forest rehabilitation project aimed to counter the cause of global warming. Given the firm political will of the Malaysian government, at both the federal and state levels, the outlook for forestry in Sabah in pursuit of sustainable forest management really looks good. The Sabah state government, through the Forestry Department, has made huge progress from what can only be described as timber exploitation to the multiple uses of Sabah's wonderful life-giving forests based on the principle of sustainable management. These strategic steps powerfully address the many different needs for the forest and give real hope for achieving the ultimate goal of Sabah's valuable forest heritage being sustained forever.